when it comes to shoveling snow, and that's a common, activity that people just have to do to be able to function. If there is a heavy snowfall, they have to at some point get out of the home and perhaps drive somewhere. It's really important if you have cardiovascular risk factors or known cardiovascular disease to talk to your primary care provider and or your cardiologist if you have one about how safe it is or not, or is it, for you to shovel snow. It's easy to just tell yourself, I need to get this done and to go outside. But what folks need to remember is that the level of physical exertion that is required to shovel a driveway or a sidewalk can be much higher than you might anticipate. And so, unfortunately, it's not uncommon to hear stories of people having cardiac events during that activity.
I know that, it is dependent on how low that temperature does get on the thermometer, but that really can be harmful, and you really don't realize how harmful it can be at the moment. Everyone's cold when they go outside, but it can take it to a whole different degree, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah, the temperature is important, but it's only part of the equation. So wind chill matters. The other thing is, cold injury can happen without us necessarily expecting it or realizing that it's happening. And so, whether that's in the form of something like frostbite, think about our fingers and our toes, our noses and our ears. Those are the parts of our bodies that are most susceptible to frostbite injury. So, looking for things like numbness, discoloration, those are important signals that something might be going wrong. And preventing that is important through the use of covering. I know it sounds really obvious, but it's important to cover, especially those parts of our body that are more susceptible to frostbite. When it comes to our overall temperature, our body temperature, we need to be mindful of hypothermia. So, wearing layers is important. Having the layer that's closest to the skin be properly moisture wicking so that you're not keeping sweat, which is probably going to be happening under those layers, staying close to the skin. Knowing some signs of cold injury of hypothermia, so things like shivering, but also the absence of shivering. So if somebody's in a cold environment and they're shivering and then they no longer shiver, especially if you're seeing other signs or symptoms like confusion or increased heart rate or increased breathing rate, those are signs that things are progressing potentially to a more serious state. So prevention is key. The wearing of layers, the awareness of what's going on in our environment, knowing our forecasts, looking at the WSAZ app and knowing what's coming. Those are all really important. But also in the case of children, making sure that they're, depending on their age and their level of understanding, that they're aware of what they need to be doing to prevent illness or injury and to watch for certain signs or symptoms. Again, if they're capable of really understanding that and acting appropriately, and obviously monitoring children, making sure that they're observed while they're playing in the snow, and that we're keeping things, reasonable with regard to the amount of time that we're exposed to cold is really important as well.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Sometimes you get those kids out there and they don't want to come in, but if they're out there longer, it may not be a good idea. Is there anything else you can think of, especially as we head into the even colder weeks here in our region, for people to keep in mind?
Yeah, I think it's really important always, but especially again this time of year, to make sure that we have properly functioning smoke alarms in our homes. We are sometimes burning wood in our fireplaces or wood burning stoves. Candles are kind of common this time of year, and so we need to be careful about fire hazards, but also carbon monoxide. It's really important to have carbon monoxide alarms in our homes and to make sure that they're working properly. And there are multiple resources out there that folks can look to get guidance on these things. But I want to make sure that folks are remembering to not only have those devices in their homes, but to test them to make sure that they are working properly this time of year.